I'm leaking everything, Tech. I don't give a fuck. Oh my God, you're number one in my eyes.
Alright, bro. So look, I feel like as a black person, you know what I'm saying? I think there's multiple classes, like on some fantasy RPG shit that you can really go down as a black person, especially one with even a smidgen of consciousness. Or you could do the Hotep Afrocentric class, the Malcolmist, New African class, which is kind of what I'm doing. You also got the Revolutionary Pan-African class, which I also fuck with, you know what I'm saying? Also have the Black Marxist class. I think Black Marxist can be either a Pan-Africanist or a Black nationalist, but I would describe more of a Sicilian Marxist-Leninist that is specifically focused on blackness and black liberation. And then you have the Black Maoist class, which, you know what I'm saying, they're black. They probably love the revolutionary action movement. They probably fuck with the Red Guards, the Black Guards. They really fuck with the idea of mass line. Super pro New Africa too. There's also like fringe classes here and there. You have the Black Trotskyist class. The Black Trotskyist class is... I'm not, okay, historically, I only know one nigga, Singular Jam, so maybe that's just me, maybe I'm just a nigga that don't read too much, but the Black Trotskyist class is historically, and even now, fringe. I'm not gonna hold you. And they tend to be a little racist, a little anti-black, no cap. You know what I'm saying? But y'all are cool, man. And now I'm going to give my justification for why I decided to main Malcolmist / New African class. I'm gonna give some reasons why I decided to main that, and I'm gonna use my subclass abilities, Black Marxism, to explain those type shit. Today's video is going to be exploring why I, Boom, identify as a New African. First things first, let me explain subjective dialectics and map out Fanonian dialectics. Yes, my nigga, this is what we're going to be doing. Today's video is going to be annoying and complicated. So Lenin's dialectics had two aspects to them. The first one, analyzing and deconstructing the seemingly inextricable contradictions that lay bare in history. Contradictions manifest in the living and non-living, nature and society. This is called objective dialectics. The second one is how objective dialectics is reflected in thinking. This is called subjective dialectics. Do not forget that. So with subjective dialectics, the subject we are focusing on is the dialectical relationship that undergirds colonialism. The one of the colonizer / colonized. This is going to be my first reason why I'm a New African. No cap. On a quote-unquote objective level, there is a material benefit to the colonizer when it comes to this process. They forcefully lumpen-proletarianize the colonized subject into a permanent position of reserve army of labor, extracting surplus value through this process and transforming their relation to the land of one of extraction. But how does this quote-unquote objective process reflect in the thinking of the colonizer and colonized? Well, first things first is the dehumanization inherent in the colonial process. The colonized is dehumanized and their ontology is snatched from them. The colonizer, therefore, inhumanized, turned into a monster, seeing the colonized subject as an object. You know what I'm saying? As communists, we practice and use the realm of materialist dialectics to analyze society. We believe that the underlying force that pushes society forward is the material process that undergirdles society. So for more orthodox people here, capitalism is a material process that affects society, right? We can understand that. But colonialism, imperialism, and patriarchy are material processes too. As we all know, Marx was a European, and specifically German. Marx studied European history and societies and analyzed them. But we have to keep in mind, Germany and a lot of European countries were colonial powers. They weren't settler colonial societies though. So Marx lacked in that aspect when it came to his, writings and research, and we can acknowledge that. So anyway, how do we think these material processes affect the psychology of these two subjects? Would it be a cooperative one or an antagonistic one? Let's be honest. And this is where my Malcolmism comes in. Black people will never be free unless we free ourselves from colonialism, patriarchy, and capitalism. in this mission is imperative to any black radical with sufficient consciousness. The reason I bring all of this up is the topic of revolutionary consciousness. The same way Marx, Lenin, and Mao spoke on the revolutionary potential of the proletariat, this wasn't just some objective analysis, obviously quote unquote. This was also rooted in quote unquote subjective analysis. The quote-unquote objective oppression of the proletariat leads to a separate quote-unquote subjective view of the world that is more revolutionary. I believe colonized people have a greater revolutionary potential than non-colonized. aka white niggas are useless as shit, no cap. And I've never read Jay Sakai in my life, bro, so if you're one of those ACP whites, bro, go away, no cap. That analysis done, I'm going to explain why we need the anti-colonial revolution on top of a socialist one. Alright, bro, so this one is going to be actually interesting for black people, no cap. The first one is kind of just cracker control, because them niggas love fucking like questioning why people are black radicals or some shit. Them niggas love doing that, no cap. So this one is probably going to be actually interesting, because I'm going to go over Fanonian dialectics and Frantz Fanon, which niggas love. Niggas love them some Frantz Fanon. So what Fanonian dialectic states is that us black people are one in a state of inferiority. And this isn't just black people, but all colonized people. So due to societal anti-blackness, and all that is negated, right? How is it negated? As we read and educate ourselves on black history, read Malcolm X, Assata Shakur, Bell Hooks, Khalid Muhammad, etc., we fall into negritude. AKA we become proud of our blackness. The negation of the negation, though, is done through anti-colonial violence. That's what separates the Afrocentric from the revolutionary. And no cap, I'm not going to shit on Afrocentricity though. Like, I actually support Afrocentricity. As long as they're like a Kwame Ture Afrocentric and not a Karanga Afrocentric. Like, it's a little tangent, but Huey P. Newton was definitely on his white people shit with his, like, he was super, like, anti-Afrocentric. Like, he was super anti-Afrocentric, and, you know, Fred Hampton too, and, you know, like, I get why, but, like, relax, you know what I'm saying? Like, teach some African history, bro. But y'all get what I mean, no cap. So now what we're going to get into is, why is this a necessity? And this is going to be my second reason. You know what I'm saying? Why we need to overthrow colonialism and not just capitalism. Through anti-colonial violence, we break down the colonizer and colonized dialectic, which also means we break down the psychological effects that these things have had on these subjects. You know what I'm saying? And I just explained what those could be. I mean, not could, but, you know what I'm saying, Fanon? This act of anti-colonial violence that breaks down these colonial social relations leads to a new way of conceptualizing the world, aka a new revolutionary humanism, where we can move from blackness and whiteness as identities that change how we think and process the world to just simply descriptors of physical appearance. Essentially, to wrap all this up, I believe that the only way to truly experience a world that represents freedom to its most radical heights is to wage a war, not just against capital, but also colonial relations. AKA, for this one, basically, I'm not organizing or trusting white niggas until the entire U.S. apparatus is gone. No cap. So those are my first and second reasons. Basically, I believe colonized people have more revolutionary potential, and we can also come to a truly qualitative evolution in how we relate to each other socially, only by ending colonialism. That also includes patriarchy, things like that. So in my mind, do Africa is the only way we're doing this. The point on internationalism, I'll make that, like, that's gonna be a different video, no cap, because that's a lot. Like, people think, like, you know what I'm saying, like, New Africans never thought about this, or, you know, it's just concepts. No, there's real life stuff going on to this day. So I'm gonna go into a whole different video. So now that all that's over and I talked about my first two reasons, now I'm finna talk about patriarchy, right? So I'm a queer black person. I know a lot of us, and cishet black women or colonized women are worried about this. There's been a lot of works on patriarchy and the Pan-African movement and New African movement. I even wrote about it myself. I can make a video about it if y'all want me to, but in my personal opinion, what separates New Africa from other quote-unquote, ideas, the white niggas, ACP, PSL, DSA niggas, is that what we organize to isn't some mythical idea. Things like the PGRNA exist, for example, which, by the way, that means Provisional Government of New Africa. These are actual things that exist. You also have the Malcolm X grassroots movement, which is the New African Mass Party. You have New African Vanguard parties, which I'm going to name now because I don't think they would like the attention. And New African militias, which is the same thing. I don't think they would like the attention, so I'm not going to name those. They're not some vague quote-unquote vanguard party that we just assume will do all these things. So think about it. If you're queer or someone who's a marginalized gender, you can jet-ass join these things and change things now. Which is the difference between like the PSL and DSA and all these things. They exist as like one party. And the same thing with the USSR and whatever, right? Like, you were at one point one party that expanded into a state once the revolution was over, and things might be hectic and things like that, but it's different with New Africa. You can just join these things now and change them, which makes things a lot easier to actually change. So, and the decentralized nature really helps that. For example, the community movement builders were created out of a split from MXGM. If you want to do something in the movement and make a change, you can, because the movement isn't really fully baked, but it has an objective. So these are my reasons why I boom as a New African. No cap. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments or whatever type shit.
Then a single shinobi from the Hidden Leaf Village stopped me. He cried for me. I was his enemy, yet still he cried for me. And he called me his friend, even though we had battled. He saved me. We were on different sides, but we were both Jinchuriki. Between those who have experienced the same pain, there can be no hate.